I am surprised to hear you say that you consider yourself somewhat introverted because you're quite a performer. Uh,
Yeah.
and I feel like I started this podcast almost strictly because I was a little too much in my own shell. I was in the IT field also, and I thought it's probably hurting my career a little bit that I never want to leave my cube or I
Yeah.
never want to speak up in a meeting or something. And I wanted to be a better sort of communicator. I mean, are there a lot of us like this or not so much?
I guess I feel like it's a spectrum, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like like so many things which we love to kind of talk about in these binary terms, like with introversion and extroversion. I think that it's just one of those things that you do get like kind of a combination, or you have certain attributes which will be introverted, some that are extroverted. But like I think that some people kind of like, for example, I know that like I naturally put myself in situations where I know I'm going to feel uncomfortable, and I kind of have this driving thing that does that. But at my core, it's because it's like a challenge to myself, and it's like it makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm very conscious of the fact that at the core it is there's an introverted personality, and that I do find these things draining, and that I do have my limits and things like this. But yeah, I guess I think that with everyone's kind of engagement with this sort of thing, there's very few people who I think you can like outright just say, you are an introvert, full stop. You are an extrovert, full stop. We're all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Something that I noticed, I was watching some of the Real Power Talk interviews, which is something I love to sort of talk about a little bit, because in particular, the one with the band Pup.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Near the end, I won't give away too much because I would strongly encourage people to check these out. It looks significantly underappreciated from what I can tell. Like it doesn't have nearly the praise and the consideration it deserves. But near the end of that first one I walked, the one I watched, you played the game with the band, and I died. Something about that little inclusion near the end, I couldn't stop laughing. And it's uncommon for me to be watching something on my phone and actually literally laugh out loud. I was laughing for a couple of minutes about that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, those are so much fun to do. I mean, it's also, I think it's a really confusing concept for a lot of people to kind of explain as well, because yeah, I mean, just to give background for anyone listening, I mean, essentially I'm interviewing bands in character, as it's like one of various characters. The bands don't know it's a character. They just think that they're having a regular interview. And so I play with that and just basically add up the weird level, or ask inappropriate questions, try to make it so it's custom for each band, those sorts of things, to just try and get a bit of a different response from them, just try and get something that's abnormal. I mean, the whole thing started because basically I'd been doing band interviews for so long that I'd gotten so sick of it, because I was just like, you try so many different things to try and get something unique out of someone when you're interviewing them. Just try and break that sort of standard thing, especially if it's musicians, because there's so many like standard, the reason they're doing this is because they're touring an album that they've just released, so there's so many standard questions. They're bored of them, you're almost bored to ask them. There's a press release that exists just to kind of like soften the blow of this entire process. You just go crazy with it. And I remember there's an artist called Donny Bonet, who's kind of like this Australian artist. He's inexplicably popular in the Netherlands, despite being Australia, and he does this kind of like 80s cheesy sort of smooth jazz sort of music, but looks like the sort of guy who is straight from plays sleazy extra number 2 in some 80s film, with his bald head, like leisure suit kind of like ensemble. So the first thing that started was just that I had a chance to interview him, and I was like, what if I interviewed him dressed as him, and kind of just, so it just started with that, but just like a completely like po-faced serious interview, like all about his kind of like jazz influences, all about what it's like kind of touring as an artist, very sort of straight-laced, but the entire time dressed exactly like him. So, and it was just like a really fun thing, and also quite surreal having such a serious conversation whilst both dressed is so utterly ridiculous. And then it was just like the natural progression to go, okay, what else can we do with this?
I did get to watch some of that one also, and what struck me there was it was such a funny idea that you came in with that, but at the same time, like, you managed to do these things without alienating the person, which I love. I mean, you came in, you guys were very warm to each other, you hugged first thing, and sat down, had a great conversation, and it's a lot more fun to watch when you don't have that uncomfortable feeling like this guy's going to get mad and walk out very soon,
Right.
So I appreciated that. And at the same time, like, it does seem like you've found a way to sort of thrive. And I don't know if this is because of that introversion a little bit, but you've found a way to be very comfortable with like a slightly uncomfortable energy in the room, maybe. What do you think?
These are really good observations. And it's funny you mentioned as well. I'm glad you picked up on the fact that, that like the first thing that I'm not a fan of like making people, this kind of gross out, just trying to make the people uncomfortable as such. I want to make sure that the butt of every single joke is me or my character. I don't want these people to come away from it feeling like I'm making a complete idiots of them, because there's loads of people doing that sort of thing. But I feel like it's a little lazy. I want to make more of a challenge to make it so that I'm trying to get something out of them. But yeah, it's oh God, I've forgotten the original question. Sorry, I got ADHD. So what was the other part of the question?
That's okay. Like, do you feel like maybe part of that is that foundation and basic like introversion for you, that sort of like helps you do that kind of thing and not be too worried about like the feeling in the room,
Yeah, like one of the things which I do workshops and things of with improv particularly, which I've kind of, has been pointed out by multiple people, especially early on, was that like I'm at my best when I'm kind of fully in character. Mm-hmm. Because like when I'm just being myself, I think that there's like a little bit of, that introversion means that I end up with the self-conscious voice is still there at the back of my head. And if something goes too wrong, I'm still not like in control enough to guarantee that it won't kind of rattle me. Whereas it's kind of like once I mentally switch into this character, even if that character is just like an exaggerated version of like, say, myself, there's just a little bit that's kind of like, when something embarrassing happens, when there's an awkward pause, when something doesn't go quite right, my brain is kind of like almost taking it. It's almost like a third person that's looking at this happening, and there's me and there's this character and whoever, and I'm interviewing, and I'm kind of like thinking, look how ridiculous this is. What would make this more ridiculous? I know, if they just carried on just with this awkward pause and, just with nothing happening. And yeah, it just becomes so much like easier then when I think of it that way.